Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. John, thank you for putting this together. Judges, obviously, thank you for being here. My name's Darian Saul, a recent Elliott School graduate, and I'd like to introduce the rest of the team of eI.Q and our site, humanpotential.com. This is Michael Saul, my dad. He has over 20 years of experience as a personal development facilitator and executive coach, teaching emotional intelligence to Fortune 500 CEOs. He's also on the speaking circuit of some of the premier executive networks, Young Presidents Organization, YPO, Vistage International. Josh Lasky here, one of my best friends actually, is a GW Presidential Administrative Fellow, helped found the GW Office of Sustainability, and will soon graduate with a MPA. So we are here with eI.Q, our human potential tools. So getting started, considering my mom is my dad's business partner, I grew up in a very interesting household with facilitators as parents. They soon realized, the effect that their work had on me when I was about 8 years old, and I came to them and I said, guys, your decision to, have me learn the piano here isn't really going to work for me. What can we do to renegotiate this?
Darian, I did not grow up in a household with two parents as personal development facilitators. I'm certainly not a Fortune 500 CEO, so my question to you is, how do I learn these skills and gain this knowledge in negotiation and feedback and personal relationship management?
Wouldn't it be great, guys, if you could have the equivalent of your own personal executive coach in your pocket, available day and night, whenever you needed it?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, eI.Q, we intend to release a series of smartphone applications that will be your anytime, anywhere pocket coach. We intend to build a franchise of branded applications that will harness the power of emotional intelligence, bring it to the masses, and in fact, measurably increase the end user's eI.Q, or emotional intelligence quotient. So, question on all of your minds, what exactly is emotional intelligence?
Excellent question. So, the term is actually popularized by Dr. Daniel Goleman in 1995 with a bunch of work that he did in research. He's created a convenient, easy-to-use four-part framework that I'm going to share with you today. It includes self-awareness, building skills around accurate self-assessment, gaining self-confidence. Self-management motivation, learning transparency, adaptability, inspiring optimism within yourself. Shifting to the external, building social awareness, gaining empathy skills, and aligning yourself with a particular service orientation. Finally, there's relationship management, inspiring leadership, developing influence, promoting and developing others' characters around you, and becoming a steward for change. So Dr. Goleman was particularly interested in proving a business case for emotional intelligence. And part of the work that he did was a study with 300 top-level CEOs at 15 global corporations, where he basically found that the star performers, the ones that took off and performed far above and beyond the rest, had a certain set of emotional intelligence characteristics and displayed those characteristics. They included organizational awareness, sense of self-confidence, the drive for achievement. He also worked to acknowledge the work that the U.S. Air Force is doing. The Air Force, believe it or not, has recognized that emotional intelligence is an important indicator for the success of their recruiters. And actually a different set of characteristics within emotional intelligence were noticed with these individuals. They displayed empathy, attentiveness, a good sense of self and happiness. And by using emotional intelligence in the HR process, they were actually able to increase their ability to predict successful recruiters by threefold.
We spend and invest, in my case, hundreds of thousands of dollars for ourselves and our children to gain a formal education and technical skill. And yet very few people consciously spend any of their time or investment developing their emotional quotient. Now this is a problem and a really big missed opportunity, because as you can see, some of the research shows that when it comes right down to it, it's the emotional intelligence capability that's the preeminent, dominant aspect to success in work and in life in general. Now, before we go a little bit further with eI.Q, it's important to understand how the process within the brain supports the development or hinders the development of emotional intelligence. When the sensory part of our body receives information. It sends a dual message, both to the neocortex, which is the rational thought part of the brain, and simultaneously to the amygdala, which is the emotional part of the brain. Those two then send a signal to the prefrontal cortex, which we consider kind of the executive decision-making center of the brain, and it makes a decision of what kind of action to take. Optimally, this works well when the brain sends signals to both parts of the brain and the executive center is able to balance the information coming from both. Interestingly enough, when the sensory section of the brain experiences or assumes that there's some kind of threat to us, then a different process takes place. In effect, what happens is the rational message is overridden by the emotional message, and the amygdala basically takes over. Daniel Goleman called it the amygdala hijack. And what happens is an emotional response, often very automatic, is what occurs.
So the good news, we can in fact retrain ourselves. We can retrain our brains to develop a new response to an emotional trigger. For example, sitting in front of a room in front of 4 judges giving a pitch. Butterflies are going through my stomach. I have a surge of adrenaline going through my body. I've been in a similar situation before, and in the past I've interpreted this as fear or that threat that Michael was talking about. However, now I've retrained myself instead to interpret these sensations as opportunity and excitement. Next, training the conscious mind. How many of the 4 of you know you have that little voice inside your head that talks to you? Okay? If you're not raising your hand, that little voice is telling you right now, what the hell is this kid talking about? Next, inserting a pause between stimulus and response. Let me say that again. Inserting a pause between stimulus and response. What this allows us to do is bring the amygdala back online and once again function in perfect harmony with the neocortex. Now that you understand the scope and the significance of emotional intelligence a little bit more, let's talk about what that means for our mission statement. Bringing emotional intelligence to the masses, okay? Self-help industry grossed over $11.18 billion last year and continues to grow at a rate of 12% annually on average. Now, we feel that they've missed a giant opportunity to truly bridge the gap between the way people live and the way they learn with 21st century technology. They've missed the opportunity to truly bring into play these concepts of emotional intelligence and apply them to the everyday situations of an individual's life, opportunities, challenges, and struggles. Now, therefore, our value proposition is that we will measurably increase your eI.Q, your emotional intelligence quotient.
The timing of our products coming into play is particularly favorable. Right now, we've seen a 50% increase in smartphone sales last year alone. That number now represents 11% of the total cell phone market, which, by the way, has reached 1.3 billion handsets, coincidentally, the population of the People's Republic of China. We also have seen that Apple's iPhone App Store has almost eclipsed 1 billion in app sales. And we've heard the recent news that similar platforms like it are planning to host their own app stores, like Google, like BlackBerry, like Palm. But within our plan, building a successful app franchise requires us to have a user experience that is both simple and highly interactive while customizing to a targeted market. We want and aim to be the first to market with emotional intelligence tools. We have a low price point. Our first piece of software is going to come out at $299. And we have already filed for IP and trademark protections. We plan, like Darian said, to be ubiquitous across a bunch of different platforms like the ones I mentioned. So with some of the research we've done, we realized that our target demographic is between 15 and 40. We're looking at folks that value a meaningful life experience over tangible things, folks that are looking to achieve balance in their lives, maybe to reduce their stress level a little bit. We're also looking at folks that are very tech-savvy internet users. And within sort of our sphere of emotional intelligence, we have a number of different competencies to address and a number of target markets with which we're going to address each with one of these apps. So then conflict management. If you're a teenager that's having trouble with your parents, by the way, we found out that teens we've interviewed prefer the word rents to parents. You need the application Rent Control. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. If you're someone like me who's a young, driven professional who's a full-time worker and a full-time school person, a master's degree, got a dozen different things going on, but you always want to stay on top of your game, a lot of competing interests, you need staying in the zone. If you're about to buy a car or a home, or you're going in for a job interview, we've got a suite of apps that are going to be able to help you.
So let's take a look at our prototype for rent control. Let's say we've got a user, James, who's just purchased rent control for $2.99, almost a compulsive buy, instinct buy, and he gets this user interface which has the conventional model has 4 different domains at the bottom. For the experienced user, you can short circuit and jump from domain to domain directly once you become more familiar, but when you're a first-time user, you usually start on the left. So we're going to start by telling James a little bit about the different kinds of styles of how people handle conflict, and by having him answer 15 questions very quickly, we're going to be able to give him a visual graph of his particular conflict style and actually give him a verbal description of it in detail. So, James, your survey shows that you don't like to address conflict head-on. Your avoiding tendency might take the form of sidestepping the issue, putting it off to a later date, or avoiding threatening emotional situations in general. Then we'll go on to ask James some more specific questions that will give us context for how to frame the emotional intelligence characteristics and concepts we want to present to him. So we'll ask him, in your family, who makes the decisions, mom, dad, or both? What's the best time to talk to them? When would they be most open to it? What's the level of urgency of this particular problem? What is the problem or the issue? Do you want to borrow the car? Do you want to go to the party? And James will give us that information. Then we'll present the model for him. And in this case, in our ability to integrate basic concepts into this particular niche target market, we're going to use the acronym RENT, from rent control, to introduce to him the concept of first thing he needs to do is relax. So this is where we bring in emotional self-control and teach him how to change his state of being. We're going to, E is for empathize. We're going to teach him how to reduce the anxiety of his audience, of his parents, and how to establish connection with his parents. We're going to teach him how to negotiate. This is where James will learn the difference between intention and position, how to ask rather than tell, how to build a win-win agreement. And finally, T for trust the process. James needs to know that not every negotiation is going to be successful, but over time, he will actually increase his number one goal, which is to have more freedom to choose. So he'll learn to trust his parents' intentions and also to be trustworthy himself. Finally, he might drill down on any one of those 4 different competencies, and we'll give him more information. So how's he going to calm himself? We're going to give him some choices. Go to a private room and yell, go take a walk, go do your favorite activity that causes you to get some energy going, get out of the house, etc. Then we'll put it all together and create a plan for James. So James's plan is, James, right now, go ask for time to talk with both mom and dad after dinner tonight. Present your case for going to the party. Remember to ask, I have a request. Remember to tell your parents, I know you care about my safety. Remember to say, what info do you need from me in order for you to feel okay about this decision? Then negotiate for an agreement that works not just for James, but for both. Now, before James acts on this, we're going to give him a chance also to get more feedback or more support by pinging his customized peer network, his crew, and doing an instant poll where they'll get a scenario like this, and they'll vote, should he do this, shouldn't he do this, and give him other suggestions. Or, for a premium price, he can ask an expert, and we'll take him to our network of vetted emotional intelligence coaches who, for $2.99 a minute, will give him specific feedback either on the phone or through text.
So another example, the negotiator. Just going through this real quick, whether you're on the metro and you want to brush up on your negotiation skills, or whether you are preparing for a targeted event. You're about to buy a car, you're about to purchase a piece of property. You want to really prepare for this event and get the best possible price. Several options. If we're going to go and buy that car, you open the lowball app. You want to actually get down to the numbers. So you want to know, what's my anchoring value? Where am I going to start my opening bid? Reservation value. What is the number that I'm actually going to be comfortable spending? right? What is my BATNA, my best alternative to no agreement? Not only that, the best part is not only can you access the Kelley Blue Book, local availability consumer reports, but I can actually have an interactive game and negotiate against my pocket coach to really prepare for when I'm on the lot. Same concept of that customized peer network, where I can now reach out to my close group of friends, my advisors, my buddies, and actually say, give me the green light on whether or not I should actually buy this car once I am on that lot. So that's an example of the negotiator. Talking about our operations strategy. First of all, I will function as the Chief Business Development Officer. Michael will be the CEO, and Joshua will function as our Chief Operations Officer. Phase 1 and Phase 2. So Phase 1, we want to be very specific and only release this to the iPhone on Apple's platform. Differentiator. Most applications do not then push their users toward a web presence. We will do that to www.humanpotential.com, which, by the way, has already garnered a fair amount of interest, and we have already received an unsolicited offer of $10,000 just for the domain name. What this will allow us to do, not only set up the portal and start to build that registration database, but then move on toward referral marketing. Toward the end of Phase 1, we will also be just about ready for the beginning of Phase 2, where we will become ubiquitous across all smartphone platforms.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put strategic alliances together with key social networks in several different domains. Dating domain, relationship domain, the general one, business, and international. And with each one, we'll have an arrangement like LinkedIn, for example, in the business domain, where we will give them some free content and services in order to drive traffic to humanpotential.com. Once we get this established, then what we're going to do is really start to offer the true potential of humanpotential.com as a full-blown portal. A one-stop shop for everything related to human potential. We'll have 4 different domains: better person, better family, better business, and better citizen. Within each domain, we will have vetted the thought leaders, best practice people, the people who are truly the other resources that we want to promote and have people go to. And of course, we'll have affiliate marketing relationships with each, so as we drive traffic to their sites, we'll earn additional revenue. Finally, we're going to finish it off with our enterprise app program that we have in development right now. For small businesses, we have a couple of programs for human resource, and one that we're particularly interested in, and that's bringing emotional context to email. I deal with this as a problem in the business environment day in and day out, and we have some really cool ideas for how to bring this into the business world, into all our worlds. Financially, in Q2 right now, of course, our only external revenue will come from winning this competition. Other than that, all of our expenses are devoted to contracts we already are putting in place right now for early software development. The good news is software development is relatively inexpensive for applications in this marketplace, and we've learned how to leverage that. So when we go to multiple platforms, we're only having to do about 10% extra work. You'll see that in about Q3, we start introducing the apps. In Q4 and Q1 of the next one, we start building the franchise of the apps, and it's not until Q2 of 2010 that we start the full potential of the portal, and by the end of 2010 start earning additional revenue for affiliate advertising. By the end of 2009, we're looking to break even. By 2010, however, we're going to demonstrate the financial viability by having an EBITDA of $3+ million. And this is just the beginning of this investment potential because we haven't even scratched the surface internationally yet. This is just in our local market here in the United States.
So to wrap up, some of our strategic partnerships that we already have in place for content, for example, Newton Learning, which my dad is currently president of, their senior partners, James Newton, Michelle Saul, my mom, of course, wouldn't be complete without her. Retired Coast Guard Commander Tim Ciampaglio, also an adjunct professor of negotiations here at the George Washington University, good friend of mine, who's discussed emotional intelligence with everybody from President Barack Obama to retired NFL football coach Jimmy Johnson. Software development and digital marketing, Geary Interactive, which has offices in Las Vegas, San Diego, and San Francisco. They're senior partners, as well as iStrategy Labs, CEO Peter Corbett, right here from Washington, D.C. Thank you for bearing with us there, and we will now take questions.
how did y'all come up with the pricing for the?
In the app marketplace, the pricing varies from free. The majority of them are in the 99 cents range and go up to as much as $25. What's happening lately is the 99 cent apps are now moving into the $2 and $3 range, those that actually have value. What's really cool about this is we used to look at software like this. This was a $500 package. And so it was limiting the market. It's why it worked well in business. Businesses adopted it in a big way. But to bring it to the masses, when you can only charge $2.99 or $1.99 on special, people will buy it even if it's just a throwaway. And when they start to see the value in its connection to the social network, it spreads like wildfire. So keeping a low price is really important.
Are there a lot of self-help apps available for mobile devices today?
There are a number of them under lifestyle and entertainment. Mostly they are in there are some in the stress reduction, meditation environment. That's the closest thing we've had. We've done an exhaustive search of current available apps, and there are 15,000 of them on the iPhone right now, so it was a big search. And nothing delivers eI.Q at this point in time.
Nothing delivers eI.Q, or nothing delivers like this type of content?
Nothing delivers this type of content either. Yeah, there's nothing about negotiation. There's nothing about conflict management.
Got it. So if I read the financials there quickly, correctly, $300,000 within 2 quarters. So in 180 days, you're going to have 100,000 buyers of these applications. So what drives that?
Well, what drives that is we met with the Software Industry Council and talked to over 30 different Apple iPhone developers, and what we discovered is the low end is about 8,000 apps per month sold. The high end goes up to about 300,000 to 400,000 apps sold per month. We just picked 8,000. And what we're looking at in the financials is 8,000 just with one app release, and then 8,000 at 4 apps releases just on this one platform.
There's obviously the benefit of getting on Apple's top-selling apps, which
Right.
basically has been proven to double your sales if you make it on that. And their initial rollout, they have a whole package of when they take care of their initial apps and get you featured as you're first starting out.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well.